Welcome to Think Tank, powered by Vodacom. It's a rugby show that's a lot like a hedgehog. It's got ears close to the ground, and we make lots of points. Speaking about points, Tank, we were right on point last week. We said Hurricanes Highlanders in the final, and that's what's happened. They're both through.
We did indeed. So now I had 4 takeouts from this weekend, Zelim.
Let's go.
They were, one is the concerning one, of course, is the Brumbies gave Stormers 20, and then the Canes gave Brumbies 20. So state of South African rugby, concern, we've spoken about it all season, so let's not dwell on that, but it wasn't exactly a comfortable seat, that particular one. I love the fact that the top 2 sides are going to play in the final. Sanzar tried very hard to manipulate the log so that we get, all kinds of people in the final, but the top 2 sides are going to play.
Quality came through.
Exactly, it's fantastic. Then the other one that's been proved yet again correct, I know the Highlanders kick a little bit, well, a lot more than other sides, but the teams with the attacking game, the guys that are playing ball in hand, that are playing heads-up rugby and not playing to a formula, but allowing the ball to do the work, are the 2 sides that are in the final. That's fantastic.
Hanneke May has unveiled that 49-man expanded Springbok squad. I think he's picked everybody, including a couple of guys that are still injured. Just your thoughts on that squad?
Yeah, I must say, the surprise is that it's 49 people. So again, we kind of, it's like an editor who can't make his call on his top story. So he still hasn't revealed his real plan. But I think the takeouts there are, let's go. It's old school. It's cool, and I think it's always going to be Meyer's plan. So he's going to go with the Matfields. He's going to go with the Steins. He's going to go with the Jacques Fouries, Frida Pre. It's old school is cool, I suppose, but when one of them breaks down, so Dupree's already done his ankle at playing in his first week in Japan, if Matfield breaks down, where are we then?
Great
Just
question.
not sure on do we have our number 2 yet, in a number of positions. But interesting, so he's only picked 1-8, so Whiteley, if no one else, unless he goes to Berger or Alberts, which would be traumatic. It looks like Whiteley will play against the World 15, and then, the only fit centre is Damon Allender. There's 100 unfit centres.
Well, that's a slight exaggeration. But
okay, 5. So for me, perhaps the guys that miss out are Julian Redlinghuyse. I think Marcel van der Merwe, he's picked 9 props, 9 out of 49, and one of them is Marcel van der Merwe. I think that's a little bit sad. And Jaco Kriel, I think he deserves a shot there. I think he's probably undecided as whether he can play a proper 7 at international level, and then is he good enough at 6? So he's probably caught in no man's land, but those are the takeouts for me.
If you look at the size of that squad and what they've got to be whittled down to 31 men for the World Cup, it's a tough gig because basically you've got to take 1 extra player in each of the mini units on the side. That's all you've got. So 1 extra player in the back 3, 1 extra player in the centres, 1 in the fly off, scrum off, back row, lock and front row. That's tough.
Yeah, he's got some big calls to be made, certainly, at Looseford there's a plethora of them, but who's he going to trim? He's definitely taking 3 loose heads, tight heads and hookers, so that's 9, so it keeps it even tighter in the rest. So I think, our flashpoint is probably at lock, where we're not entirely sure there, and that's another guy who probably missed out, was Ruan Botha. He's gone with Loot de Jager. Again, I think he's been desperately disappointing. Franco Mostert is 100%er. He gives everything.
Love him, but is he a test lock?
Is he right there, Botha is giant. He doesn't have much experience, but he's unlucky to miss out, and he could be an option there.
Question of the week from Brendan Fogarty. He wants to know how are the laws of the ruck being blown in relation to, or how is the ruck being blown in relation to the laws of the ruck?
Okay, so now I saw Fogs last week. He coaches at my Lighty school, so he gave me a heads up on this. So I did some research. Look at this research.
Amazing. Pictures.
So it's interesting. I think where we're going wrong in rugby is the fact that we have so many laws, they're so complex, but we don't do them objectively. They are refed subjectively. And I think that's where we're going wrong. And I think Fogs is right. One of the areas where it's going wrong is the breakdown. And, most people speak about the maul going wrong. But the ruck is also slightly ambiguous. So, definition. Players are on their feet. At least one player must be physical contact with an opponent. The ball must be on the ground. If the ball is off the ground, the ruck is not formed. And I think what Fogs is getting at is, so when is it formed? The refs speak about beaten by the ruck. So if there's a tackle situation and Pocock or Berger have got their hands and they're just 1 second late because 2 players have made contact, then they're beaten by the ruck. Then you can't have your hands in. So I think that's subjectively refed. The other thing is joining the ruck. So it says there, you must have one full arm bound either on one of your team. Never. And for me, it's one of the injuries waiting to happen in rugby. That clean out.
Yeah.
It's much more dangerous than a scrum these days because they've cleaned up the scrum. I mean, it takes forever to have one.
Yeah.
But this clean out, it's without doubt they lead with the shoulder. There's definitely no arm bind before they do that. So I think that's concerning. And then the joining of the ruck. I've even got a picture.
Incredible. Wow, look at this. Did you do this yourself?
Oh, yes. Artist in my spare time. So that is the offside line, behind the hindmost player's feet.
Right.
So you can only join with an arm bound, either behind or alongside the hindmost. Now, you tell me when you see that happen.
Never.
You know, people are coming in from the wrong angle all the time.
Yeah.
So I think, well, I hope, folks, that that's your point, is that, one, it's being refed subjectively, and two, that offside line is without doubt not policed.
Yeah. So, Tank, obviously, on this picture that you've got here, there is a line on the field which doesn't exist in real life, and that makes it tough for the ref to really enforce the law sometimes.
And that's, you raise a hell of a good point there. So there's too many laws and it's too hard for one guy to do. Varsity Cup have tried 2 referees. It hasn't really slowed down the game, and it's got another set of eyeballs on. I think it's worth having a look at that in real rugby, so to speak. The other thing is that they call them assistant referees now, and they're not touch judges. Let's use them. Especially on the offside line. They generally get involved with, if a player's ahead of the kicker or sometimes behind a scrum, but nothing as delicate as this. And perhaps it's time for those guys to get involved and with that imaginary line and actually get actively involved in the game, because that's actually what they should be doing.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's all the time we've got for the law stuff this week. Thanks very much for the question, Brendan Fogarty. For the rest of you, keep those questions rolling in. There were a couple we couldn't get to this week. We'll try and get to them again next week. Please use the hashtag ThinkTank with your questions, and be sure to check out vodacom.co/rugby. Until next time, ciao.